Hello everyone! In this video I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Illustrator to create a pumpkin similar to this one. The inspiration for this pumpkin came from this image. Notice that these pumpkins come in all different shapes and sizes. Also notice the wide variety of different eyes, noses, and mouths. When you're designing your own pumpkin, keep this in mind. You don't have to make your pumpkin exactly like the one I make in the video. Let's go back to Illustrator and create a new document. Go to File, New, and title it Glowing Pumpkin. Set the size to 1080 pixels by 1080 and leave the rest of the options at the defaults. Click the Create button and you will have a blank document. The first thing that we're going to do is draw the pumpkin. So over here in the tool panel, click and hold on the shape tools and choose ellipse, or just push L on the keyboard. Now I need to change the color. Go to Window and on the alphabetical list choose Swatches. And in the Swatches panel I need to set the stroke to none and then click to bring the fill forward and change the fill to this nice orange color. Now I'm going to click and drag out an oval to start with, and then we won't modify this oval. Now if you want to move your oval without changing tools, click on this little dot right in the middle and hold, and then you can drag the pumpkin where you would like for it to be. Next I'm going to switch to the direct selection tool, or you can click A on the keyboard. Notice that when I click on this square right here, I get these little handles that pop up on the sides. I can click this handle and I can drag it all different ways. So I'm going to make this a little bit wonky. I'm going to click this one here, hold it and drag it down, and I'll do the same thing on this side. And I'm just going to make some different creative variations until I like the way this pumpkin looks. You can also click on the end of the handle and drag it out to make it whiter. And this is a little bit too skewed on the top. There, I think that looks pretty good. And if you don't like what you did, you can always push Control Z as many times as you want to undo. Now over here in the Layers panel, I'm going to click right here and open up this little menu, and I'm going to put a padlock right here so I don't accidentally keep selecting the pumpkin, because I'm going to move on to the eyes. So I'm going back to the ellipse tool, or L on the keyboard, and I'm going to change the color to yellow. Oops, see what happened right there? That happened because I still had the pumpkin selected. So let me undo that, Control Z, and I will click the selection tool and just click off of the pumpkin to deselect it. Now I'm going to get the ellipse again and change that to yellow, and this time my pumpkin stayed orange. Now I'm going to drag out an oval, and I'm going to change that to be the shape of the eye. So now I'm going to show you how to use the curvature tool. So go ahead and click to select that, and I'm going to click on these different points and just drag this around and modify it until I like the way it looks. And everyone's eyes will look a little bit different. Now I think I'd also like to rotate that, so I'm going to get the selection tool, or V on the keyboard, and I get this bounding box. If I hover the cursor on the outside, I can click and drag and adjust the angle, and I can also move the eye around. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is give a gradient to this eye. So I'm going to go here to my swatches, and right here at the bottom you can see this gradient. And the default colors are white and orange, but I would like to change those colors. So I'm going to go to Window, and from the alphabetical list I'm going to choose Gradient. And for the gradient, I'm just going to change this orange by double clicking on it. I'm going to change it to yellow. And I'm going to click on swatches so that I can access these swatches here. There we go. And also notice this little diamond up here. If I click and hold on this diamond and drag it, I can make more or less of the white versus the yellow show. So I think that looks pretty good right there. Next thing that I'm going to do is put a orange stroke around this eye. So to do that, I'm going to, over here in my swatches panel, click to bring the stroke forward, and I'm going to try this orange right here. Now, the stroke right now is so small I can't see it. So I'm going to click on the Properties tab, and yes, it's only 1 point. So I'm going to open that up, and let's say, how about 16 points? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is make a copy of this eye. So I'm going to go to Object, Transform, Reflect, and I'm going to reflect it vertical by 90 degrees and choose Copy. Now that I have a copy of this, I'm just going to drag it over here. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust these a little bit, maybe something like that. The next thing that I'm going to do is make the nose. So for the nose, I'm going back over here to my shape tools. I'm going to click and hold and get the polygon tool. Now I'm going to click one time and I get this window, and it lets me know asks me how many sides I want. I'm going to put 3 so that I get a triangle and click OK. Now I will simply use the corners here to drag this out to the size that I want it to be. And if you want to move it, remember, click only on this little blue spot in the middle. Now I'm going to switch to the curvature tool and give this a bit more of a natural look. Maybe something kind of like, yeah, something kind of like that. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is the mouth. So back over here to the tools, click and hold and get the ellipse tool. And I'm going to click and drag an oval that I'm going to manipulate into the mouth. So there we go. I'm going to use a combination, I think, of the curvature tool and the direct selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and start with the direct selection tool, and I'm going to click and drag this down a little bit, drag these sides up by clicking on the anchor points, which is the squares. And I want to make these sharp corners, so I'm going to click and hold on the pin tool and get the anchor point tool and just click right on each one of these, and that converts them into points instead of rounded pieces. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is maybe use the curvature tool to kind of give this a little bit of personality. Just move it around until I think it looks interesting. Okay, so that looks all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some teeth. So for the teeth, I'm going to click and hold again on the pin tool, and I'm going to click one time down here in this area and go up, click one time and go down, click, up, down. Let's go ahead and have 3 teeth. Up and down, and I need to touch the beginning point and the end point. Next thing that I'm going to do is switch to the selection tool, or hit V on the keyboard. This is selected. I'm going to hold down Shift and select the mouth. Now that both of those are selected, I can go to Window, and from the alphabetical list, I'm going to choose Pathfinder, which is right here. And with Pathfinder, I'm going to click the second button, which is minus front. And you can see that that subtracted those teeth from the rest of the mouth. Now, I actually don't like the way those are touching, so I'm going to get the selection tool and grab these points and move these up a little bit. You might not have to do that with your mouth. It depends on how you drew it. Okay, so there's my face. So with the selection tool, I'm going to click the eye, hold down Shift, click the other eye, click the nose, and click the mouth. Then I'm going to right click over those objects, and from the list I'm going to choose Group. Now those are now attached together so that I can move them together as a group if I want to. Now I'm going to make the stem. So remember to click off to the side to deselect your object, and I'm going to choose this green color right here. Oops. So I noticed that the green went to the stroke. That's not what I want. So I'm going to put the stroke on None and click to bring the fill forward and change that to green. Now with the ellipse tool, or L on the keyboard, I'm going to click and drag an oval. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the curvature tool, and I'm going to manipulate this until it looks kind of like the stem. That looks okay so far. Now I'm going to grab the shape tools again and get the rectangle and draw the top part of the stem, something like that. And I'll use the curvature tool to make this look interesting. Now to make some variations, I'm going to grab the direct selection tool, or A on the keyboard, and I'll grab this anchor point here and drag it down a little. Maybe I'll manipulate the handle some. I'm going to click on any of these anchor points and move them around. Until I like the way it looks. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and select both of these green parts. So I'm going to get the selection tool, or V on the keyboard, select the top part, hold down Shift, and click on the bottom part. I already have Pathfinder open from before, and I'm going to choose the first button, which is Unite. Now those two pieces are one piece, and I'm going to move it up a little bit. I think it's a little bit too low. You know, I think I actually need to move the pumpkin down. So I'm going to go to Layers and unpadlock my pumpkin, move it down, and move my face down. The next thing that I need to do is add the stripes to my pumpkin. I'm going to go over here to the Layers panel and click on my pumpkin and click inside this little circle right here until it has this little blue indicator next to it. Then over here down in the toolbox you can see this says drawing modes. So if I click this button, I'm going to choose Draw Inside. Now what I'm going to do is click off to deselect the pumpkin. I'm going to get the paintbrush tool, and I'm going to double click on this stroke right here. The fill has to be set to none, and the stroke, I'm going to set it to a dark orange color. Let's try that color and see what that looks like, and click OK. Now, because I have the drawing mode set to inside, when I draw over this, the shape or the line that I drew goes inside the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that with Control Z, and I'm going to choose a nicer brush. So I'm going to go to Window and choose brushes from the alphabetical list. And I'm going to open this side menu, go to Open Brush Library, Artistic, and I'm going to choose Ink. And from my ink brushes, I'm going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to choose the second one down, which is called Calligraphy number 1. And let's see, what size? Let's go to Properties, and the size is really small. Let's try 10 and see what that looks like. You can do this with a mouse or a drawing tablet. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my drawing tablet, and I'm going to start drawing lines on my pumpkin. Okay, so 10 is way too big. I'm going to do Control Z to undo that and go back to my brush tool, and let's try size, let's set this to size 3. All right, now let's go ahead and try drawing some lines on here. So looks pretty good. And I'll draw some lines swooping down from the top. I'll draw one kind of down the middle, and maybe one more on this side. And maybe I'll put a little bit on the sides just to make it look interesting. Maybe one coming up. And maybe a little bit more right here. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is the stem. So I need to go back to the draw modes and go to draw normal. Now I'm going to get the selection tool and click on the stem. Go back to my draw modes and do draw inside. Now I'll click off to deselect the stem, get the paintbrush tool, and this needs to be set on none for the fill, and then for the stroke, go ahead and click to bring that forward, and then double click it. I'm going to get a nice, I want kind of a, yeah, okay, that color looks good. Greenish yellow color. All right, so now with the paintbrush, I'm going to go ahead and draw some little lines on here. And notice that because I have draw inside, everything that I do stays inside the shape. And now I can go ahead and turn this off, put it on draw normal. And that is my finished pumpkin. Have fun with the project, everybody.